recording now. All right, welcome everybody. And one more person. Okay, awesome. All right, everybody should be settled in now. Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for attending our launch party for issue 12 of COUNTERCLOCK Journal. We're super excited to hold this space today for our contributors today to share and present your work, and for everyone else to come and enjoy and celebrate. And it'll be a very fun and lively time, hopefully. Today we'll ask our writers and artists to read and show their work, and throughout we'll present cross-genre works that flip between genres and disciplines with grace and muscle, followed by our patchwork pairs. Everyone is welcome to use the chat option throughout, and at the end of each segment, we'll have a cute little Q&A session for the creators to answer any questions about their work. So in general, feel free to use the chat, say anything you would like, anything like hype up the people, of course, and then at the end you can like ask questions, and it'll be very fun. Each piece of work here we are very excited about. This issue is special because everything crosses disciplines in ways that we haven't really done before. They're almost like miniature films, worlds in and of themselves. Each film's frames are insoluble, which allow the art to remain with the reader long after, but immersive and lyrical and braided and intertwined inextricably with the space around it in a way that's very song-like. And each piece in here has that quality, which we love. So in this issue, we hope our contributors' work allows you to step beyond your body and into literature and art in the way that so many good pieces do. So in James Miller's The Iron Door, for example, we dissolve into these apparitions and we follow our narrator through Berlin, where light and flatness spark against each other to show us how easily place disintegrates. We continue our self-mythologizing in James Thompson's Redemption, watching the sun and the goddesses recline amidst tantalizing prose poetry. And in Kylie Golightly's art poetry, we find ourselves numbed and dissected under the vertigo of her pieces, only to find ourselves pitched headfirst into Kashai Kansi's soft meditation on her red dress after physical movement like poetry brought alive. And I'm going to pass the virtual microphone now to Rachel Liu, our managing editor.
Hello. Mark Allen DiMartino's High Noon literally uses the workings of film, a spaghetti western, to capture on camera the gritty bravado of life and death through the figure of a patriarch who at last must also submit to the elements of life. Christian Lee's art explores vulnerabilities specific to Black boyhood in the Western suburbias. In the Lord's Prayer, the figure of the patriarch and a son contrasted against a black and white backdrop, hands clasped in prayer, their imposing silhouettes softened by a slight hunch, signifying openness and vulnerability. And then there's Rodolfo Avalar's Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which is an electrifying, unapologetic poem about celebration and complexity of queer identity. We are incredibly excited to present issue 12 and feature some of the beautiful poems inside there as well. Each poem is chosen with the utmost care. And for that, I want to thank both our wonderful contributors, but also our readers and our interns as well. And I'll pass it off to Sophie, who is our prose head for the episode.
Hi, thanks so much, Rachel. Rachel and Sarah both said so beautifully that this is an incredible collaborative effort between the contributors, the interns, and our staff. And not only were these poems chosen with care, I think it's clear in reading them that it was really an act of bravery and trust for you to share them with us. And I'm really honored to have been a part of that. And I'm really grateful that you felt that you could bring us your work, that you could bring us your words. And it's just all such beautiful material that you've given us to work with to compose this issue. And I really can't thank you enough. I don't think Woody is here yet, Sarah.
I think Woody
I'll just pass
until later on. So she's going to be coming for the second half.
All right, so then back to you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, adding on to what Rachel and Sophie were saying about thanking everybody, we also wanted to extend our gratitude to Raina Shirali and Nick White, our 2021 judges for the CC Emerging Writers Awards, who were incredible, so amazing and so generous with their time, and read through all of our submissions and picked out the winners who we will later be talking with today. And they were unfortunately unable to make it today, but in spirit, thank you so much, Raina and Nick. You're the best. We love you. And thank you to our incredible staff, editors, judges, filmmakers, and Patchwork directors who poured time and love and energy into this issue and all of the films that came out today. And we're very excited about that. With that, we also wanted to note that we will not be screen sharing any pieces because we want to give people a chance to engage with you on screen. That being said, if you want to share your own pace, someone just came in. If you would like to screen share your own piece, you're definitely welcome to do anything you would like. And with that, we'd like to present our first writer, Rodolfo Avalar, our first place winner of the Counterclock Emerging Writers Awards in Poetry. Rodolfo Avalar is a poet and artist from Fresno, California. They are currently pursuing an MFA in poetry from UC Riverside as they write their first collection of poetry. Rodolfo, take it away. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here with everybody. Yeah, like it's just been like a whirlwind. I just finished my last quarter of my first year of this program. And so like, yeah, these past few weeks have been a lot, but I'm very excited to like be here with you all and with all these people and all these amazing voices. Just very grateful to be chosen. And yeah, my piece is like kind of long, so I think I'm gonna like just talk a bit about it and then like read like the first section or something. So yeah, this piece came to be. I had like just moved away for I'm so sorry. I had just moved away for my program, and I was very excited to move away. Kind of like had this idea that it was going to be like the perfect way, like to finally become like the perfect queer person that I thought I could be, away from like, you know, like family and like prying eyes. But then I moved like in the middle of a pandemic. So it was like this like intense, you know, I was just like very alone all the time with my thoughts. In this like little apartment, and like not speaking to much people because, you know, we weren't supposed to be with people. And so I was just like in my apartment alone, reading all these books and like kind of like thinking to myself, like, why didn't moving fix everything? Like, why didn't I just become the perfect person? And then just kind of like was faced with all these things that I'd been not dealing with when I was living at home. And so, yeah, I just like turned to books and to writers. And I was just like reading a lot. And then this piece came to be kind of like trying to like take pieces of, you know, descriptions of like womanhood or queerness or like Latinx identity that felt like I could like start to construct myself maybe in some way that felt more genuine. So yeah, that's kind of like the genesis of this piece. I'll go ahead and just like read the first section. Somewhere over the rainbow. You see, there's something that happens to a child of the soil when she leaves her soil. It's a death, then a painful rebirth. Oh my God. That's a quote from Nnedi Okorafor, that starts this piece off. Day one. I sit my sadness on a windowsill like a woman in a Cisneros novel, and think how an atmosphere could be pink, and think I am allowed, and think impossibilities are what a faggot is. The faggot wormhole was told, faggot, take it easy. For a week, let your body adjust to Jotek's land gravitational pull, to the Joteria in you. It floats up and you don't need to stop it. Earth is a weird world, so weird. Jotexes, faggots, queers, sissies, mariposas, pansies need to learn to live again. The faggot is me, gazing through window pane, taking it slow and learning and thinking how far into the pink I've gone. and my family's still there. I am dead. Natural faggot reaction to heave and spit. It feels so normal. I don't feel the shredding. I'm trying to find Zoom. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and for talking about your work. That was really lovely to hear and very incisive. A couple of quick notes from our judge, Raina Shirali, about Rodolfo's work. Raina wrote, this serial poem investigates the recreation of the queer self, reappropriating and turning labels over and over again in its mouth. But beyond that, somewhere over the rainbow imagines a creation myth tethered to well-known cultural references, while also inventing a psychic space of its own. Each of the 7 sections represents a day of creation, a familiar biblical reference. But here we also encounter Jotsk's land, Jotxland, the author's name for the psychic realm of queerness and self-acceptance, and which draws from the Latinx cultural lexicon. And Raina has more comments and more commentary, which are lovely, and you can read on our site at the link that we provide in the chat. But thank you so much, Rodolfo. That was amazing. And now we would love to hear from Yongyu, who is our first place winner in prose for the COUNTERCLOCK Emerging Writers Awards. I'm not sure if I saw her enter today. Yongyu, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Hi, take it away.
Hi, so everyone, thanks for coming. I'm really grateful to have been chosen for this. So a big thank you to everyone at COUNTERCLOCK. And today I'll be reading from my piece, Butterfly Kingdom. Just to give a brief intro, I was actually initially writing this about like memory and the loss that comes with old age. And I was trying to navigate that issue in the context of an elderly family member, and it just somehow morphed into the piece I have today. Okay. My mother asked too many questions and I don't know how to answer them. She doesn't recognize the mayor on TV, the one she had voted for in his previous term. She asks what my grandfather's voice sounded like when we visit his grave during tomb sweeping day. Oh, my nails carve crescents into my palms. She threads her hand through mine. She remembers me. She remembers me. This is what I whisper to myself, hunched over the phone. I dial the doctor's number anyway, and while it rings, I imagine the sharp tang of hospital bleach wetting the sickness from her mind. When he picks up, he listens carefully, even as I lick the heaviness from my throat, metallic on my tongue. It's getting worse. She doesn't remember things in the right order anymore, I say, teeth clenched. The doctor hums. I wouldn't worry about it, at least not until she starts forgetting important things. I tell him I don't know what those are. He pauses, and I can hear his pen scratching across the page. Patient's daughter does not know what important things are. Patient's daughter spends her nights searching up symptoms, answers, small deaths. You know when that happens. Everything is uncomfortably warm, the callous touch of the muggy air snaking across my throat. In the other room, my mother is singing a lullaby, only she is mumbling through half the lines. They tremble in the air, it's embodied. After that, I take to carrying around a notepad. I write down her questions with whatever I can find in neat lists that spill onto old receipts, sheet music browning at the edges, takeout menus that slice into the tender flesh between my fingers. I convince myself that as long as I can answer these questions, there's still some small part of her that can be salvaged. One night, we are sprawled on the couch, the television bathing us in its technicolor glow. She has taken to watching shows where families unravel like silk and then put themselves back together. At the same time, I shuffle through the papers and look up the lyrics to the national anthem, the name of the metro station by the museum. I remember a summer where I waited on the steps for a train, my mother's hand in one of mine. My father is absent in this memory, just like all of the others, and I think about where he is now, maybe down in the countryside with a younger wife, an intact memory, my mother's jade bracelet. Next to me, the light from the soap opera dances across my mother's face. In this scene, the matriarch is swathed in a gray shawl and yelling at her unmarried son. He stands and looks her in the eye, his gaze flinty, gunmetal cold. From the camera's angle, the height difference is almost comical. I don't know who you are anymore, he says coldly. The transformation is instantaneous. Her face splinters, hands streaking through her graying hair, clawing for her son even as he slams the door. The audience is given a perfect view of all of this, from a silhouette disappearing down the stairwell to the metamorphosis of the mother, crumpling to her knees. An alternate name for this country, the butterfly kingdom, but instead of the slow expansion of the body, the women move only backwards, shriveling into themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so, I got chills. I'm sure that everybody else also got chills. That was just really lovely. Thank you so much for sharing. And a few quick notes from our prose judge, whose name is Nick White. Nick wrote about Butterfly Kingdom. This is a story of forgetting, of mother and daughter, of the power and necessity of language to bear out the hard truth of living. I was hooked from the first sentence, and I feel like we all were. So thank you, Yomi. And our next creator, who we will be hearing from today, is Kashia Kansi. Kashia, or Kashia, I apologize, is a Miami-born dancer, choreography performer, and artist who earned her Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in dance from the New World School of the Arts. While in school, she was commissioned by Peter London Global Dance Company to create two works, War of the Woman and Every Day is February, and both works were presented at the Adrian Arch Center at the Carnival Studio Theater. Kashia, or Kashia, the floor is yours. Are you having any trouble unmuting or presenting?
Your audio may not be connected to your computer, maybe, because I see that you've unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Oh no. Would you like to try exiting and rejoining? No, sorry. So sorry. All right, let's just give her a moment. All right, while Kashia is getting set up again, maybe we can start introducing the next person, and then Kashia can rejoin us. She can take the time she needs to rejoin us, and then we can go with James Miller for. Oh, she's back. Okay, let's see if this works. Hi, can you hear us? Can you hear us now? Can you see us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, go for it.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry about that. That was crazy. Yes, okay, so second, start over. Good evening, my name is Kashia Kansi. I'm 23 years old. I am a dancer, choreographer, artist, human, and I am originally a native of Miami, Florida, but I am now currently based in Brooklyn, New York. And the film that you're about to see tonight is a piece titled, God, Can I Wear This Dress in Heaven? And it is a piece that was created during the pandemic. It was commissioned by Peter London Global Dance Company as a solo film material that showcased each artist just as they were during the pandemic at that time. It was filmed in several locations like Prospect Park, It was filmed inside of my apartment. It was filmed on the roof of my apartment. And leading up to the premiere of the work in December of 2020, it had become so difficult, you know, just as an artist to feel motivated or inspired to do really anything. And so when the opportunity arose for me to be able to create and to be a part of a community of artists and to perform, it felt incredible. So the process of making this film was so much fun and honestly a breath of fresh air considering the year that the world had had. I learned a lot about myself and my capabilities as an artist. I'm not usually a filmmaker or an editor at all in the art of dance. And so it was very interesting to have to put on all these different hats to, for the first time with the help of my best friend, Christina. We filmed consecutively almost every day during the period we had to get it done in time. We got caught in the rain sometimes. Sometimes I had to film myself with my selfie camera. We had to like work it out with our work schedules. And though just the work it took itself to make the work and to edit it down and to make it perfect felt like a roller coaster. And then the final challenge I had that turned into something that was even more amazing was that once the film was completed and it felt like everything was perfect, all the edits were done, everything was just right, we ran into copyrights issues with the music that was originally chosen for the work. And so by this point, we had run out of time. The deadline had already been met, and it felt like there was nothing we could do. And so the only solution that was presented to me was to have the company's commissioned musician create a composition for me that matched the work. And so this meant waiting for the track to be completed, re-editing the film, reimagining it in sort of like a completely different way than I had originally intended it to be. In the beginning of this, my feelings and the attachment to the first wave of music that I had for this work had been so deep, you know? But then once I started to hear the track that you're about to hear to the film later on, I fell in love and it was incredible. It turned out amazing and it was beautiful. And the composer, Ezra Hagerbrooks, he made something so beautifully to fit the tone of the work in such a short period of time. It was amazing and it blew me away. And I was even more grateful that everything that had happened up until that point happened. I am absolutely satisfied with the version that you're about to see, and I hope that you are too. God Can I Wear This Dress in Heaven is a film about paradise, freedom, and peace. It's reminiscent, it's pain, it's pleasure. It's inspired by a long red dress that was given to a friend of mine. When I put the dress on and started to film the work, I essentially ended up living inside of the dress. I fell in love with it. It started influencing so much of my movement, and I just felt so beautiful while wearing it, honestly. It made me feel ethereal. And so when it came time for me to name the piece, it seemed obvious because it was as if my soul had already found the dress. I immediately thought of heaven, that if there was one thing that I would take with me in the end, that it would be this dress. In the film, the dress has seen it all, it's been through it all, and in the end, there is peace. So I hope you enjoy it. And I would like to just thank COUNTERCLOCK for allowing me to even show this and to speak about my work. And I like to congratulate everyone on a successful night. I'm very excited. So thank you.
Thank you so much for talking about your work and for that really awesome process that you described. That's really wonderful that it went through so many metamorphoses, and it's really great to hear. Everyone, the link is in the chat. Also, I'm so sorry for mispronouncing your name. Kasia Kansi, is that right?
Yes, it's totally fine. Don't worry.
Okay, got it. Well, okay, everyone, please go check out Kasia's dance poem. It's wonderful. And the link is now in the chat. And yeah, thank you so much for that. So our next writer coming up will be James Miller. So James Miller won the Connecticut Poetry Award in 2020. Recent poems have appeared or are forthcoming in Type House, Rabbit Oak, North Dakota Quarterly, Scoundrel Time, 8 Poems, Phoebe, Yamasee, Mantis, Concho River Review, Blue River Review, Cleaver, Rethala Review, and elsewhere. James, feel free to go ahead and start reading your work.
Okay, so can you hear me? Yes? Okay. All right, so firstly, greetings from Texas. That features in my poem. I'll talk very briefly about what it's about. It's called The Iron Door. And it has to do with, I guess, like political status of travelers, right? So after 9/11, we have the Patriot Act, and then one of the effects of that is that travel in and out of the U.S. can be problematic. So what began to happen to me is that my name, James Miller, I usually go by my middle name, Andrew or Andy, but my professional name is James Miller. It's a name that is it's kind of a generic name, but it flags every time I enter the country, right? And so I always have to go through what I call the iron door into the security area where they kind of run tests and all that. And that's happened about, I don't know, 8 or 9 times, 10 times, And what's so striking about that is that when you go through that door, you don't really have any political status. You kind of disappear, really, right? And so I did that numerous times. And then at a certain point, I thought, I need to write about that feeling, about what it feels like. And generally what happens is I go through the door, I sit in a room for about 10 minutes and then I leave. It's never had any, it's always been all right, but it's very disturbing. So it means that anytime I leave the country, hasn't happened lately because of the pandemic, if I leave the country, I know that when I come back, I'm going to have this sort of blank space in my life, right? Which will be kind of painful. So I was trying to capture that. So I'll just read it now, and you get a sense of what I'm experiencing, and also what I'm witnessing that other people are experiencing, because I'm not the only person on the other side of the iron door. Okay, here we go. The iron door. Last day in Berlin. Wander through only one cemetery, half hour looking for Hegel's stone. Struggle with headlines on the U-Bahn. Divers find bloated body, surge of suicides, songbirds dwindle to extinction. Over midnight mid-Atlantic, read 14 chapters of Thomas Mann, whose family built a grand provincial house to die in. Pages sweet with trace of locust juice, crumbled wings of Ufa, Fassbinder, scorched Dietrich dresses. Banking over Texas, Houston time, refinery haze crowds the drought distance. US passport shares sweats in pocket with smeared phone, landing soon. Quill earbuds, stuffed Damo Suzuki soundtracks, iPod life, low as drag of metal on meat, forked groove of ground chuck and chorizo choked in adobo. Pulled out by security at border control, suspect first and last name, so sent through the iron door. Passport squats in bland, unmarked folder, not one question asked, their keyboards twittering. 10 minutes with folded hands and out again. Passage granted. Can't remember flesh detail. Piles of luggage. 3 dozen blank, stateless faces. Waiting with me for judgment. There is no seeing there. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your reading and for your discussion of the iron door. It was really great to hear, and we love your poem. Next up, we will be hearing from Kylie Gilatley, who also did our amazing cover artwork, so thank you so much for that. Kylie is the author of the Fever Poems, forthcoming from Finishing Line Press, summer 2021. Her poetry has appeared or is forthcoming in Palette Poetry, Gasher, Itinerant Magazine, Petrichor, La Vague Journal, Feral, Literary North, Swim with 2 W's and in all caps, and Malasanya. So Kylie, would you like to take it away?
Sure, thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Great, okay. All right, just make these go away. So these are 6 visual poems from my forthcoming book, The Fever Poems. I'll put a link to that in the chat when I'm done with it. But I wrote all of these over the course of 2 months. Mostly it was in 1 month. I was writing 1 a day last June. So very, very turbulent time. There was a lot going on. everywhere and in everyone's lives. And this was my response, I guess. So these are found poems, and they are all from one book. It's The Arctic Diary of Russell Williams Porter. And I'll read them to you. The beckoning stop. Wait, this is not the beginning. This is the beginning. Okay. Look there and there and there. Those floating specks are hundreds of baled papers bent up like two bears dancing. Dear woman, your retina must abandon the sun, and you must remove the matches from my hand. We will then hear the mirror grieve its light. Now that we have held mourning like a dead dog, your words resound as vivid as deep sea wooing in low tones for me to drop my net into and walk across with shaking hands. I know the end of the world is never forced to wait, but arrives between false alarms, while veeing birds are dragged over raised eyes. I never got a word in living below the horizon, lingering over houses, breathing. It is true that nothing is as wanted as open water. I stay only to burn what's left of the inferior coal, mined from everything that has yet to be heard. A great many made many, with an axe, decisioned or approved. The good in either case, the mind obtained to stand the summer, the night being clear. The last desires I had said I loved so well. I ran, denied having reached the summit. It was only a rock from the grave that this boulder had taken for its new polished face. Later, I found the headstone granite bound so that I might swing the pendulum for the last time and ring the heavy instrument of brass and cast iron that I was awakened by, so I could hear the names. Across the boulder, recognition would shortly appear. The beckoning stops in the quarry. All disappear, gold so grave that sorrow follows its treacherous surface. The return of the sun has aroused a feeling akin to birdskin badly bitten. Water vulnerable, held up to the light. That elusive siren, hadn't she left us any balance? What was mica before is now the only star. I think of it as nothing but the desired effect of life's admitted value. But don't ever forget that gravel is thrown at night. It's a fire truck outside. 20 years of my life, the pictures waste. There's only one direction, yes, over the striking moon and the striking recollection being torn out to swing out when the audience of the clear sky seems suddenly to be old, abandoned, rotting ice. Millenniums telling the known, announcing you're alive. Hundreds who well know stayed only out of a submerged appreciation for loss. Failures intrigued them. We must be kind, there is no oil. I refer to the historian of the living. We might keep all hands. But the storm that holds us in sight blows away the day, and we are furiously burning with thirst. Thanks so much.
Wow, thank you so much for that reading and for showing us your artwork. I feel very like stripped. I don't know, I feel like very seen, and I feel like everyone else probably feels the same way. So thank you for that. Our next writer coming up is going to be Brianna DiMonda. So Brianna DiMonda is the assistant managing editor at Mayday. Her fiction and criticism have appeared in the Somerset Review, the Cleveland Review, and Thin Air, among others. The floor is yours, Brianna.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm excited to be, reading some of my story today. Thanks for giving me the space to do so and bringing me into this lovely little community for a couple hours. I wrote this piece back in about February or March of this year. And some of the themes in it of just self-actualization and reconciliation with the past definitely came out of COVID, and the self-reflection, the isolation of the past year really facilitated. It's not explicitly a COVID or quarantine story. I just think the themes were kind of reflective of that. I've also just been reading a lot of women authors like Sarah Rossetter and Naomi Wolf, and their writing, the themes in their writing definitely informed what goes on in the story as well. So I'll just read a couple paragraphs, and yeah, thank you. Victoria didn't pay the hyena too much attention until she heard its voice. The cold, curved tone without vibrations roused her awake. She stared into the dark inquisitively. Again, like the chorus of a tender song, it repeated her name. She sat up, her sleeping bag peeling off her shoulders like a chrysalis. She didn't understand that intonation, so far from life, so far from the rest of the bodies sleeping beside her. What was it she had been dreaming about? She unzipped the tent and opened the flap to reveal the night sky, the Big Dipper above her in the east with Orion far to the west. The Southern Cross, often referred to as the crux, could be used for navigation. By clenching your fist and aligning your first knuckle with the axis of the cross, the tip of your thumb would indicate south. She headed north, under the thousands of stars separating these constellations she relied on for orientation, and tilted her head up. The white lights darkened, the moon had set hours ago. The dream was slipping away. What was it she had been dreaming about? She stubbed her toe and grabbed her cold foot in her hands. Victoria, the hyena called again. She walked on, following the voice, which must have recognized something in her that Victoria had yet to see in herself. Whatever it was, she would follow the source, feel its hypnotic knowledge, and leave quickly, before she was eaten. Her bare feet stepped delicately over the small succulents in the ground, not caring to stay on trail. The only way forward was the most direct path, the one that took her straight to the mouth of that low, curved intonation of her name, Victoria. She remembered how a few weeks ago, just after leaving her husband, she had turned to her sister to ask her if she wanted coffee. They were in the kitchen, and before she'd even finished her sentence, she had stopped, brows furrowed, eyes focused on the brown liquid pouring into the mug. Ah, she had realized. She just mimicked one of the voices she had heard so often when she was young, that of a young woman who recognized her aging features, consumed by her lost beauty and vaguely bitter. The voice of a woman with most of her life behind her, confronted with her mortality, her impossibility. Her speech empty, soaring upwards with identical unoriginal notes, trying to scream but stifled, suppressed. And the body, stuck in 2 bright days, empty skies, sexless nights, a life heading for mild despair, each day the same as the next. A fragile history that went unnoticed to the untrained ear. And then coffee all over the counter. Her sister handed her paper towels, asking where her mind had gone. Victoria had always felt voices. She understood people intuitively through them, by their timbre, their inflection, the octave in which their words danced. She recognized their entire life up to that point at which they spoke to her, and she memorized each of these inflections in turn, absorbing their words, digesting them, recognizing how each revealed their needs, their wants. As a young girl, adults loved her for the attention she devoted to each of them as she twirled around the dinner table, head poking just above the wood, asking them about their favorite meals, their wine, their pleasures. She cultivated this attention like an art and used it alternately as a shield and a weapon for decades, until she met her husband, until they went on their honeymoon together, until she recognized that his dissatisfaction was insatiable and that Victoria could not cure his emptiness, or the way he lived between life and death, not understanding the liminal space he inhabited, or the way he suffered because he really had split himself in two by not really living, so that each part of him, one dead, one begging to live, faced the other, demanding things he could not provide, things no one could provide. And that's all that I'll share. Again, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to the rest.
Thank you so much for sharing. The prose in that piece is just, it's so crisp, it's so good. So like you can see everything exactly on the page. So thank you so much for sharing your work with Counterclock and for reading that. Our next person, creator, photographer, artist, is named Christian Lee. And Christian is an award-winning visual artist based in Los Angeles, California. The New York Times published his photography in their first print section entirely dedicated to teen art. So Christian, would you like to talk about your work?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm not quite sure if I could top these readings. I mean, everyone's work has just been amazing so far. And even though I work in visual art, I just have so much respect for writers. And I'm just like, blown away by the quality. So this whole event is amazing. But I think for me personally, the unfortunate truth is that the camera on a historical level has been used as a vehicle for racism, and it's been used to promote racist ideology. And that's the exact reason why so many of these harmful stereotypes exist, is because they have been and are still being communicated through various forms of media, specifically in film and photography. So as the camera kind of becomes accessible to more and more artists, I think it's imperative that we recognize those racist images from the past. I know we can't erase history, but I feel like we can confront it by creating new work that uplifts and empowers marginalized communities, which have been visualized photographically through a lens of violence and subjugation. I feel like as an artist of color, I've kind of viewed the camera as a foundational tool in helping to restore dignity and agency to these misrepresented groups. The body of work selected by COUNTERCLOCK Journal for publication dismantles discrimination by offering an alternative narrative that empowers and uplifts African-American men whose falsified and damaging visual appearance in art forever stains the face of modern media. The title of the series, Till the Day Breaks, was taken from a Bible verse from Song of Solomon. I consider myself an artist of faith, so being able to integrate Christianity into the images was integral. The ongoing documentary photography series depicts the rich interior life of Justin Young, who's an African-American teenager growing up in the suburbs of California. It captures a lot of intimate and symbolic moments in his personal life, such as the relationship with his father, or on a much larger scale, his relationship to this country. The first image, well, I'm not going to share it, but it's published anyways, but the first image kind of shows Justin wearing the American flag as a simple but powerful act of protest against racially motivated violence. A variation of that image was published in the New York Times, both in a special print section and digitally. The second image, the Lord's Prayer, depicts Justin and his father engaging in an afternoon of prayer. Once again, the series is still ongoing, and I've been photographing Justin for the past 10 months. So he's been extremely gracious with his time and his energy by allowing me to document him in his space. And kind of strangely enough, even though I work in film and photography, I draw a lot of inspiration from like poetry and literature and music and things like that. I read James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time around the same time I started photographing, and this just blew my mind. I mean, I was not educated on Baldwin, but it was amazing. So it kind of changed the way I photographed people and things like that. And I also read Ocean Vuong's Night Sky with Exit Wounds. I'm a big Ocean Vuong fan. I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't won the Pulitzer by now, but I'm a huge fan of his anyways. So like, I've drawn a lot from literary in terms of like inspiration for my art. And I've also been listening to a lot of Aretha Franklin. So that's been super helpful during this process and super enlightening as well. I'd like to end this kind of conversation by thanking COUNTERCLOCK Journal for this amazing opportunity and extending my gratitude to everyone who came. I mean, the fact that people are gathered in this virtual room to support the work of other artists is really, really amazing. And it's super inspiring. And it kind of shows me that there is an appreciation for art and that people are, willing to sit down and to listen and to look. And that's just so inspiring. Also, I cannot wait for the Patchwork screenings. I'm very excited. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your discussion of your work and for that incredibly articulate and eloquent discussion of racism and history and the camera as a foundational tool. That was really lovely to hear and just like super well put together. So thank you for that and for your work as well. Our next creator will be Caitlin Crow. Caitlin is a queer poet based in Richmond, Virginia. Their works have appeared or are forthcoming in Appear on Review, Blue Stockings Magazine, and Wrongdoing Magazine, among others. Caitlin, would you like to talk about your work?
Yeah, hi. Greetings from Richmond, Virginia. I first just want to thank COUNTERCLOCK so much for putting this on. This is my first ever virtual reading, and I'm super excited and amazed at how many people are here and just the work so far. And I'm kind of going to bring the intros full circle for the writers, because when Rudy was talking about their work, I was like, I totally am resonating with that, because this poem kind of came from me finding myself in the equivalent of a one-room log cabin, but in the city, that we were only renting because it was in walking distance of all of these fantastic restaurants and bars and all places that all of a sudden couldn't go to because of COVID. And it gave me a lot of time to think. I've never really tried to think about myself too much because I've always been uncomfortable with myself. But I suddenly found myself just sitting there thinking all the time. And I came to the conclusion with my gender identity, my sexuality, like who I am. And it's been really exciting. And this poem was kind of born from that. So I'm going to go ahead and read. My mother asks me what my children will call me if not mother. I ate a dozen of my mother's deviled eggs during my 23rd birthday dinner. Family recipe. I pop them into my mouth whole and then chew. We sit in the living room with my family after, digesting. My mother breaks the silence, asks what my children will call me, if not mother, and I pause before I answer. Hands on my stomach, full, round, but not with life. I tell her I don't know. Maybe I will never need to. This is something she doesn't understand. I know when her eyes see me, they still see woman, something round, delicate, unboiled. Maybe she'd see me as whole, as other, if my own yolks were whipped into a vinegary paste of mayonnaise, mustard, salt, pepper, paprika, and I could bite my breast flat against my plate like I do her deviled eggs, whole, and then chew. Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking about your work and for your amazing poem as well. It hits so hard. Every single line is like so beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing your work with COUNTERCLOCK. On that note, thank you to all the writers and artists who just talked about their work. It was amazing. And we will now transition into the second portion, which is the Patchwork Film X Poetry screenings. And before we talked a bit about having a Q&A portion, and so we're actually going to push that back at the very end. So everyone who has questions for the journal or for Patchwork, we would super appreciate if you could just hold on to those until everyone is finished presenting, and then we'll talk about everyone's work then. So Caroline and Sarah, take it away.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I am one of the co-directors alongside Sarah Z. So over the last 3 months, we have organized the Patchwork program. The purpose of Patchwork is to blend the fluidity and imagery of poetry and the visual power of short film to create a new and unique creative experience that both elevates and celebrates artistic exchange and collaboration. So this cycle, we were lucky enough to have 8 brilliant artists join the program, and using their talents, transcend their respective mediums and create fantastic little short movies. And so we're just so pleased with the results and so excited to share with you tonight. So Sarah, if you want to explain what's about to go down.
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, I'm the other co-director of Patchwork. I'm Sarah. So basically the format will be, we'll have each of our 4 pairs first give you kind of a look into their process of the creation of their films, and then we'll have them share their films with you, and then we'll have like a brief time of Q&A, probably a couple minutes for each pair where you can ask them questions about either their process, their film, anything else you'd like to know. So our first pair is Jonathan or Jono Krefeld, who is the filmmaker of this pair, and then Yongyu Huang, who is the poet of this pair. And their film is called Roadside Memorabilia.
Hi, so I guess I'll get started with a little intro. So basically, with being stuck at home on and off for the past year, I was thinking a lot about physical distance and the growing apart that comes with it. There's this feeling of everyone around you moving past and on to greater things, like better things that don't involve you, even though everyone's struggling with the solitude that comes with these circumstances. I've also been dealing with people moving away and the sense of loss that comes with that. So when I was writing this poem, I wanted to capture the traces that people leave behind and the sort of grieving process that comes with it. And I thought that highways were the perfect vehicle to express that. There's something haunting about the constant flux of people, like being alone in a car while everyone around you is just rushing past. And you're just wondering where they're going, where you're going, and whether you'll be left behind. I wanted to explore the things that people leave behind, both intangible and tangible, fleeting or permanent. And I think that Jonah did a really amazing job at capturing the little moments that make up the ideas that I was trying to convey.
Yeah, so getting Yang-Yu's poem, I mean, it was so wonderful to work with her. She's so talented. And growing up I'm from New Jersey, and a big part of the landscape is really huge, vast highways that you spend so much of your time on. And a few years back, I became super interested in them as sort of a modern ocean. You know, there's this huge space that is designed only for passing through, but there's so much strange and uncharted territory that the average person never really looks at, despite most people spending a huge amount of time on highways. So when Yang-Yu showed me her poem, I was like, oh, perfect. I was literally wanting so badly to film on highways and explore that sort of space. So it let me explore it much further through the setting of the road and the focus on loss and memory and absence, which I think the highway really is able to express and sort of gives this feeling of people passing through. As I shot, I came to love exploring the concept of tiny pieces of people scattered along the sides of sort of these asphalt oceans, and these transient environments that we're all in, but we spend so little time in. Yeah, I feel like a part of being human is the amount of loss and absence and grief you have to pass by day to day and let roll off you, because otherwise it would be too much to process. So I hope this film and the poem communicates that sense of the towering scale of things we call normal, the quiet tragedies happening inside of our homes, and the ghosts watching us from the side of the road as we drive to where we need to go. Yeah, that's my piece.
Jono, do you actually want to screen share your film? We have like time for everyone to like show their films as well.
Yeah, here, let me get it up.
Cool.
Okay. Let me just. Is it sharing audio as well? Oop. Oop. Where am I? This is terrible. Sorry. Okay. Can everybody hear this? No? I think I need to be enabled to.
Yes, we can hear. I think we can hear.
Okay.
When morning lifted like a banner, wind struck. In summer, nothing but asphalt scraped clean of dust and other bodies. That night, we locked our windows, let the water run, a shadow feral in the emptied house. I lined the hallways with what we unearthed by the side of the road. Spare change, a bouquet of keys, yellowing posters for unwanted people. I'm told that they looked everywhere, miles of brittling grass and gas stations, for where they buried it. Once, I watched you fist gravel, pretending like it was all that we drove out to find. When summer and nothing but dirt, when you told me to think of the body as scenery, as sheen of red paint. In the end, I swam circles alone in the pool while you outpaced every lagging eclipse on the highway, light slick against the wrists, migration backwards as if you knew where you'd end up. The dimmed stoplight, the pump in the way it spilled fluorescent. Your face paled by the scarlet glare of the signs you passed, small disasters, scattered and unfurling like the curtains I parted in the morning. A shuddering breath, or a field to disappear into.
That's it.
Yay, thank you, Jono. That was beautiful. I especially love the kind of shadowy silhouettes of the people you had throughout the film, as well as the use of color. Thank you also, Yang-Yu, for your poem that served as the basis of that film. Next, we will have Anna Tropnikova, who is the filmmaker of Her Pair, and Suchi Pritchard, who is the poet of Her Pair. And they will be sharing their film between this space.
Do you mind if I screen share instead of doing the Vimeo link?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, just because the Vimeo is like a 400 megabyte version.
Oh, yeah. No worries.
So I don't have to pay for the Vimeo account. Okay, so I'm just, I think Sushi and I wanted to just first show the film and then we will talk about it. But first I will say that I have 1 minute of it animated and I have 2 minutes to go. Animation takes a while, so please stay tuned and watch the rest of my film when I finish it, hopefully soon. Let's see. Can you hear? Can everyone hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Wait a minute. You can't hear the poem, can you?
No, we can't. Is it?
Oh no, 1 second. I can hear it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. How about now?
The infinite space
Yeah,
between world and toy. Vertiginously, before writing herself, she'd been practicing gymnastic dismounts from the branches, sap sweet, clinging skin, braided tassels hold. The weft and warp, the silken weave, an apple leaves the tree to enter the story, her mouth wanting red. After an androgyny of angels edges to a circle, the way time body works against the possible if you ask. Saddle points in hyperbolic space. Time itself is the task, an earnestness full grown despite tension. Lace, couplets, eyelet, the vocabulary soothe, the same sweet warming. Here the window could last. You ask. There are nights, those fragile, shaking in wind covers descend predictable glass. There are days, certain buildings predictable in their ability to reflect light. As with cloudbreak, your windows show the sun. You point out to me, the tightrope aerialist, his every step tenuous over us now. Our breath matched with his slippered feet, slow, deliberate. Feet, mine, naked and laced to race unknowing fates described in your passing windows. Gleam, expanse wanting, hiding a euphoria of silk, cocoon-like enclosures, opaque, gauze curled around the branch tenting, trailing hypotheses of flight. A slip of the wall to act as a container, surround a hidden mechanism I had to fold time. We had run out of garments, naked. We waited for future incident, like clay waiting to take shape. Flat hands, the clock circling. If I look long enough, the one hand to speak of minutes as it settles, shivers in, shivers, settles in. To a limited stillness, passing light textures velvet the wall, morning, crinkled sateen, a melody to match my indoor scented weather. Further, reveal myth, enter the passion play, written in a length of gold letters scrolled across the glass wall. Beg to leave this tableau vivant, pregnant with unstruck sound, milk, white paper, a slant of verge, a slang of punctuated slash, a vintage nostalgia, shipping route. Flat, ocean, until the wave, a movement, a resonance, a force, star sound, heart, petals, milk, blood, milk blossom, falling slow, slower, like a single drop, naked, waiting to take shape as water waited, for there is always more to hear, even and especially in clay, melting, glisten, waiting on, we go, we go, we go, for there is always more we hear, even especially in silence, we bear, listening without ears.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Suchi, for your poem, which again served as the basis of that film. Yeah, everyone, please check out the film once Anna finishes animating the rest. I'm sure it'll be even more amazing than it already is. Next up, we have Jesse Clearman, who is the filmmaker of this pair, as well as Tanya Singh, who is the poet of this pair. And their film, When Spring Came, I Folded Your Name into a Prayer. So if Jesse and Tanya, you guys want to take it away? Wait, Sarah, did they enter actually? I'm not sure if they're in the meeting.
It doesn't look like Tanya is here. And let me check. Jesse's also not here, unfortunately.
Okay, that's all right. I'll try communicating with them to see if they can still make it. Let's move on to our originally planned last pair then, Jessica Wang and John Tsai. Jessica is the filmmaker of this pair and John is the poet, and their film is titled Kunlun Mountains.
Oh, hi. Yeah, my camera didn't work for a minute. Okay. Yeah. Hi everyone. So, yeah, I'm very happy and it's my honor to present my poem and that Jessica to works with me. Yeah, it's amazing process. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I think this poem sort of comes from a road trip that I had with my family during the summer I graduated from high school. Yeah, we took a road trip through the kind of the large portion of the Western China, the Tibet plateau height. Yeah, that area. So yeah, it comes out of that. And it kind of describes some sort of the state. I think being I guess a foreign country. Yeah, I'm an international student from China. Yeah, so I think that sort of related to it as well. And I really like the Jessica's execution and the piece. No, her creativity on this film. I think it's not like a one-to-one adaptation or like a but it's it's a metaphor. Yeah, it's very artistic. It's not exactly just showing what the poem says, but yeah, they are like connected and they're working together. Yeah, so I really enjoy that.
Thank you, John. I'm actually going to check if Jessica is here. Or actually, Sarah, can you check? Because if not, I can share the film from my screen.
Yeah, I saw her at the beginning and
It's okay.
I do not see her in the room right now, but I also remember seeing her, so maybe she had to go or something like that.
Okay, that's okay. I will share from my screen. 1 second. Okay, sorry, I'm like having technical difficulties.
All good. Take your time.
Sarah, would you actually, sorry, I'm like, got a new laptop and don't know how to use it. Sarah, would you mind sharing actually? Do you have access to the film?
Of course I do. It's the one in the Google Drive, right?
Yes, yes. She sent a YouTube link too, so we can also use that.
Awesome.
Off the highway is green, only green, nurtured by the unknown. The air is thin and frigid with the taste of bones, which silenced any space for speech. I keep driving. Far away, a flock of goats, gray as the sky, wait by the ridge. They look at their herder, who kneels on the grass and rests his hands on the hazy stomach of their fallen mate. I keep driving. The abandoned bleeds. The man lights a cigarette without looking back. Leaves his coat eroding into the green. Vultures come. In the prey's elongated purples, through the gaps of dark clogs, is heaven. I keep driving until they are left behind.
Thank you, John, for your poem, and thank you, Jessica, for the film. I think she just made it back in, so hi, Jessica.
Hi.
Hello. So yeah, thank you both. I think Jessie and Tanya, who are our last pair, have not made it yet. So I guess for now we can go into the Q&A session, and if they do happen to make it at the end, maybe we can like slide them back in. But yeah, we can go into the Q&A session for now. So I'll give it back to the other Sarah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Sarah and Caroline, for those film poems, and everyone for your work. We now have our Q&A session, and so would people like to, if people have questions for any of the creators who just shared their work, questions for each other, just thoughts you had to share, or any reactions as well. Now we're going to open up like a little space for everyone to talk. And also, Suchi, we noticed earlier that you didn't get a chance to talk about your poem. I think I may be remembering wrong, but if you would like to talk about your poem, you are welcome to.
Thank you. Sure. I guess what captured the poem really well is when the sneaker turns into like window, and there's a lot of sense of like breeze, window, glass, space in that poem. And it may not, I don't think the origins of that poem are apparent, but I was thinking about, sadly, the anniversary of 9/11. And so the idea of like vertigo, glass falling, but I didn't want it to be a tragic poem. And so I studied as well a little different histories of the towers, and Philip Petit, the tightrope aerialist, crossed that, and then he crossed multiple times, and that's really for me the inspiration of the poem, and I think Anna has captured some imagery that I'm really excited to see continue. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that discussion of your poetry. And the space of it, while we were formatting early today, the space of it is quite special, and I think definitely adds something different from when you hear it out loud. So you guys should all make sure to check it out on the site and all everything like that. Yeah, so do people have questions, other thoughts, reactions for one another? Yeah, Anna.
I was wondering where John and Jessica filmed, out of curiosity.
Hi, I'm Jessica, and so I live in Taiwan, and I went to a bamboo forest in Taiwan to film this piece because, like, I feel like John's poem always make me, have a Zen kind of feeling, and I feel like there's a sense of loneliness. There's always a sense of loneliness about his poem. So, like, I have a man, I have a model. That's actually my dad, by the way. To walk alone in the forest to showcase that loneliness, which I tend to get from his poems.
That's really cool. So it's filmed in like a bamboo forest close to your house. Do you have to travel far to get it?
Oh yeah, 3 hours. It's worth it for the art, though. It's worth it for the art. But I think the process of shooting it in the forest was hard. I mean, I handheld everything, but the things like there's a bunch of mosquitoes, so I had to keep like I can't. Yeah, very interesting process.
That's very funny. That is true dedication. Wow. I think the shakiness doesn't come through at all though. Like it seems very like calm and stable throughout. Yeah. Was it actually at the Kunlun Mountains or is it at like a different place?
Oh, that's not the Kunlun Mountain. We don't have a Kunlun Mountain here.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, right. Kunlun Mountain is like a mountain range in Qinghai, like in the like the western China region. Yeah, so it's interesting to have that connection. Yeah, it's like the kind of the opposite end of China. Yeah, essentially.
Got it. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. I was watching and I was like, where are the like are there going to be mountains? But I very much enjoyed the bamboo scenery.
This is a general question. Are you guys doing patchwork again? Because that sounds like such a cool idea. I'm just like wondering, did the filmmakers and the poets know each other before they collaborated, or was it just completely like a random assignment and then they started working together after that?
Yeah, so we will be running patchwork again in the future. So if anyone's interested, come apply. And I think I don't think any of the pairs knew each other beforehand. I think Jessica and John actually do go to the same school though. So maybe you guys knew each other, but yeah, otherwise they're like random assignments / pairings.
I have a general question for everybody, which is now that everyone's finished this work that you've been generous enough to share with COUNTERCLOCK, what else is everybody working on, if anything, at the moment?
So right now I'm writing a play and also directing a play that will be on stage in November.
That is super cool. Oh my goodness. Would you like to share like kind of what it's about or just give a sneak peek?
Also it's written in Mandarin because I'm in Taiwan and it's going to be performed in Taiwan, and it's about this girl who goes to her grandmother's house for summer vacation but encounters the ghost of a little boy who asks her to help him find his name so he can get out of the house to be reincarnated into a new life.
That sounds really cool.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go for it.
I am nervously preparing a portfolio for Young Arts. I feel like there are a lot of Young Arts alum in this room, but I am very, very much getting ready for that. I've also spent a lot of time in Compton, I spent a lot of time in East Rancho Dominguez, which is a community within Compton that's known for horseback riding. So it's like I've been documenting a group of mainly Hispanic horse riders who literally parade around the city every week to kind of spread joy to their community. For those of you who don't know, Compton is a city that has often been misrepresented in the media. I think in the 90s, there was a lot of gang-related violence in the area. So that's kind of stained their reputation. But over time, they really transcended into just this kind of like very quiet, service-related, very involved community that it mainly houses like working class families. So yeah, I've been spending a lot of time documenting the horse riders and their families in that community now for like the past month. I've also been simultaneously working on a project that documents an all Black group of motorcycle riders in Torrance.
Sounds like you have a lot on your upcoming artistic plate, but they all sound very interesting, very expansive too. Are you gonna have to travel for these? How far are you from Compton?
I'm like an hour and a half away, but the drive is okay because I have a lot of family in Koreatown, which is where I'm also doing another project. So I'm typically like around that area, and sometimes I'm too lazy to drive back, so I just stay at my aunt's house, but it works out really nicely.
That is super convenient. Yeah. Well, that sounds really cool. You have projects going on everywhere. That sounds wonderful. What other people like to share?
I'm also writing a play. So yeah, I'm a playwriting and a German major at my school. So yeah, right. It's like a one act play. It's an expansion on. I wrote a 10-minute play last semester, and it was produced by my college, and yeah, I'd like to expand it based on that. So yeah, I'm working on it.
That sounds so awesome. You're like the master of all genres. Like you got playwriting and poetry, and like you're just getting them all. So cool.
Yeah. I've been like exploring. Thank you.
I could talk about my thing. I'm currently working on a series of poems, or really revising a series of poems about epilepsy and the experience of seizures and anxiety around that and dealing with that, and vision issues with that. And so I guess it's in a way kind of about finding a way to navigate that experience and to and how it sort of affected my writing and my creativity, really. So I have to say, watching the films today has got me thinking about how maybe I could kind of think about ways to bring visual elements into the work, because of course the poems are often about vision. I mean, literally vision, right? So now I think I have to go back to the drawing board and think, what could I have learned from tonight that might maybe rethink how I've constructed what I already have. So that's where I'm at.
That does sound very like visual. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you said revive, so is this something you've been working on for a while and like you're kind of bringing back to life?
I mean, I've written a series of poems for years, a few about the experience of seizures and epilepsy. In fact, I have one that's in the manuscript that just is coming out like in a week or something in a different journal. So I have a few, but then it occurred to me that I'd written like 5 or 6, and maybe I should collect them together and write more and create a project, you know. And right now it's at like chapbook size, but it you know, we'll see, right? And then I thought, now I'm thinking, well, like I have this idea where I bought a book about the history of the way epilepsy is represented. It's called The Falling Sickness. And I used that to do found poems, kind of like the ones that we had tonight, right? And I have 5 of those strung throughout the book. And now I'm thinking, maybe I could do more, you know, add a visual element. I don't know exactly how yet, but that's the idea, possibly. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Oh, Kylie, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I love the sound of that, Andy. I think that sounds great. I am working on another body of found poetry, following this. Kind of once I figured out what I was doing with these poems, I made the concept like tenfold. And so I used to work as a butcher in fine dining, and I'm using cookbooks and I am treating them as bodies and pulling apart ingredients as new words. And I'm using it to like write about all these really intense topics, because the language lends itself to a lot of things like consent and objectification, because it's a lot of action verbs and using, referring to once living things as objects. And so it's pretty dark and it's really fun. And that's what I'm working on now.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, cool.
Oh my gosh, your background as a butcher. I didn't know that you used to work as a butcher, but that is such an interesting framework to come into this with.
In Richmond too. I shouted out Richmond, Virginia earlier when Caitlin was reading, and that's my background is food there.
No way. That is really cool. What restaurant were you at?
Metzger Bar and Butchery.
I know of it.
Yeah, it's in Churchill.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I'll talk about what I'm working on now. It's nothing very big, but I'm working on my first chapbook. When I was a senior in college, I was putting one together and I kind of fell off the creative wagon for a while. But I'm back on it now. I'm exploring MFA programs, but really focusing on that chapbook right now, which is really cool. I have like half of the poems for it. And then I have like, little baby poems that aren't really poems yet, but are about the same subject. And it's really cool to like see, because I feel like I write about only a few things. And so it's cool to like see them curate into like threads. Yeah. And I love arcs. I wanted to be a novelist, and then I realized that I don't like to follow long arcs in my own writing when I was a kid. So I think putting a poetry chapbook together is kind of like writing a novel, but it's small pieces and it's got an arc to it. So I'm working on that.
Wait, yeah, totally. That's really cool. It's like seeing little like baby poems come on, like they're all coming into their own and like connecting together. That's very cute. Yeah, no, for sure. It's like writing a novel in a bunch of little increments. So it sounds like a very fun project. Also, Arthur, I saw you raised your hand. So yes, Arthur has a question for Kylie. Go for it.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks so much for this reading. Kylie, I was wondering, that's such a visceral like feeling I get when you talked about having a background as a butcher, and I'm wondering what the handling of meat in terms of craft, right? Like, what has that taught you about language? How does that make sense? Like,
yeah, that's an amazing question. I feel like I will. Oh man, that's a great question. It's funny because when I was working as a butcher, I was mostly a musician. I wasn't writing at all at the time. It would be years before I thought about writing. Well, I was writing songs, but like as being a poet. And I was playing the guitar, and I was really, really aware of how I would spend 10 hours a day with my hand on like a knife or in meat and stuff, and then like get home and spend another 6 hours with a different kind of metal and producing a different kind of thing. So that's something I haven't thought about in a long time, but it's funny, I've thought about it in different ways. I kind of want to say I'll get back to you on that, because it's I feel like that's what I'm trying to carve out of this project, is like how food and language are like, related and not related.
I think like that's really awesome. I'd love to see like imagine like, I'm sure there's techniques in the way you carve, like slice meat, right? Like you learn from like being a butcher, and like maybe think about like what poetic techniques can you create from like that kind of structure, right? Like that's
absolutely yeah, that's awesome. That's very provocative. Thank you.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any other last thoughts? We're approaching the end of our, yes, Suchi, go for it.
Oh, I'm just working on links between extractions from the earth and malls and arcades. So right now I'm working on a body of work in the West Edmonton Mall where there was a roller coaster accident and deaths, but it's very close to the oil sands of Alberta. And then that's sort of like my master's thesis work right now. And then for my PhD, I'm hoping to move to Cardiff, Wales and study the coal industry in relation to a way earlier predecessor to malls, which was the arcades. So, you know, which Walter Benjamin writes about arcades and et cetera, and how it affected Baudelaire's time, you know, but the coal industry is what actually like propelled like in Wales, the start of these mall type Victorian arcade shopping areas. So that'll be my PhD research, I hope. Yeah, extraction in the earth towards shopping capitalism. What's the bridge, and how do we come of age through that, or look back at it historically? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. I was like imagining that while you were talking, like the malls and arcades. That's just like, yeah, I was just imagining it and that feels so like tangible. I don't know how to describe. It just feels very like interesting to visualize. What other people?
Sadly, there was 20,000 parking spaces at the West Edmonton Mall, 20,000 cars. And, you know, a lot of those shoppers were people from the oil extraction industry. And so, you know, I'm just curious to hear the Victorian stories of like the coal mines in Wales to the shopping, you know, because arcades, covered arcades are, that's the origin, I guess, of like shopping malls, really. So yeah, and now malls are going extinct because of online shopping, and so Amazon's, you know, how will I go into comparing cyberspace and Amazon after I move away from earth extractions and shopping? But yeah, thank you so much.
I had no idea that malls came from covered arcades. I did not know that. I thought I read a post once that was like, it's called the mall because you're not going to one store, you're going to them all. And I was like, oh, that's why they named it that. But I guess they were joking. I guess they came from covered arcades. That's a much more interesting story and very tragic. Were the people in the cars?
Sorry, were people in the?
Like you said,
oh,
there were.
Yeah. So, yes, yeah. It was very sad. Yeah, there's a really beautiful roller coaster play that went to off Broadway called Ride the Cyclone, and that was like also inspired by youth that died on a roller coaster. So that's like a loose sort of association I make working. Yeah, Ride the Cyclone. It's an amazing play and it's musical. It's the ghost of these kids that die on a roller coaster. It's very, for those that love theater, it's a great piece of work. Yeah. Thank you again.
Oh my gosh, Ride the Cyclone. Okay, I'll have to check that out. That just, yeah, I've read like, I've been on cyclone type rides, but that's definitely going to send me for a loop the next time I'm on one. Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing so far. Does anyone else have any last thoughts they'd like to share?
Oh, by the way, I just like to say that for Andy, that as a German major, I was taking a summer class right now about Berlin, during like its history, kind of yeah, I was learning about the Berlin War and the Cold War period. Yeah, your poem you share, it's very relatable. Yeah, it's it's very close to what I'm studying.
My experience of Berlin is very much as a tourist, though. I mean, it was we were just there to see it. But I was reading Thomas Mann in translation to honor being there, because I don't particularly know German. My wife knows some. But the whole time we were in Berlin, in the back of my mind, there's always, well, then I have to get back home. And getting back home is going to be a bit of an emotional journey. And then thinking about that, wandering Berlin, which is a history of displacement and alienation and suffering and forgetting. And and also memory. So all of that's kind of in the poem as well. It just seemed appropriate that I was thinking about it in Berlin.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
yeah.
It's really cool. I'm going to a study abroad program to Berlin like next semester.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that'll be very fun. Yeah, thanks for your thoughts.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for your poem. Yeah.
That'll be so cool. You'll get to see Berlin, and then you can write a poem as well, and we'll have multiple Berlin poems, the different sides of the Iron Door. Amazing, amazing. Yeah. All right, we are approaching the end of our allotted time, and so we don't want to hold everyone for too long if people have other commitments to get to. If other people have last thoughts, always feel free to either jump in right now. Yes.
I was just going to say, I'm helping screen a lot of never before released partisan films, actually, about World War II. And that's going to be coming up over the course of this next academic year, and a lot of them from Yugoslavia and Eastern Europe. So I can try to, if you're interested, let you know about that and how the releasing of them goes. And I'm also taking a summer course in Japanese, like a year's worth of intensive. So that's kind of related. But it's only related because if you have ever seen Mind Game by Masaki Sao, then you would kind of understand my animation style.
I love that movie so much. I love that.
It's so good. It's so good.
Oh,
yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Oh, have you seen The Night Is Long, Walk on Girl?
No.
You should watch it.
Okay,
Oh my,
I'm writing.
It's like,
I'm
it was
writing this down.
nominated for an Oscar. And, oh my god, it's amazing. It's like living poetry, guys. Like, okay, the night is long. Okay, I'm gonna type in the chat. The night is long. Walk on Girl. This is an amazing film. It was adapted from a Japanese novel, but it's like really poetic and very lyrical. It's like I will say it's like a trip, but like a good trip, like the good kind. You know what I mean?
You, Jessica.
No, I was really drunk and I watched this movie. I recognized the animation style and it was weird as hell. I mean, it was fantastic. It's very similar to like Paprika, I think, in like just how surreal it is.
Caroline, Satoshi Kon is a god.
I was actually interested in watching Paprika. Somebody told me that Inception ripped off Paprika. Is that true?
They did, yeah.
Dang.
And Kill Bill ripped off Lady Snowblood, actually.
I haven't heard of either of those films, but I assume they're both like, are they both pretty famous?
Lady Snowblood is in Japan.
Yeah, this from the 70s.
Gotcha. If anybody also wants to share their contact information in the chat, they're welcome to, if anybody wants to reach out afterwards, because it seems like people have a lot of thoughts for each other, but it's taking some time to come. So if anyone wants to like pop the email or number in, whatever they feel comfortable with, totally feel free to do so.
Okay.
And as a last note for everyone who's here, who is not a contributor, starting from this issue, we set up a little inbox called Letters to Readers, and that's on a website. It's www.counterclock.com/letters from readers. And basically what we would love is for readers to react to the poems or anything published in Counterclock Journal, as well as the films. And it can be anything, can be your reaction, your thoughts, maybe a question for the person, or even a poem written after something. We would love to see it. We'd love to feature it and pass it on, especially as artists, like it feels really good to have someone like see/perceive/be changed by your work. So if you guys, for everyone here who's a reader of the journal, if you guys want to go on over to Counterclock's website and submit anything that you thought today, we will definitely make sure to pass it on to the contributor. And with that, unless other people have last thoughts, thank you guys so much for coming. It was super great to see everyone's faces and like hear you all talk about your work on the screen rather than just through email. And it was just really lovely to see all of you all today and have you all share your work. So thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you soon. We hope you definitely keep in touch with COUNTERCLOCK.
Thank you.
Thank you.